The list of products that works with Apple HomeKit has grown a lot since I started my smart home, which is amazing, but it can get overwhelming. Just over a year ago, I featured my top 7 HomeKit products and some to avoid. That was my most popular video, but a lot's changed in the past year. So in today's video, I'm updating my list. Feel free to skip around the chapters, and at the end, drop me a comment and let me know if you agree or if you think I'm way off base with any of these. Hi, I'm the Brad Lloyd, and on this channel, I'm helping you to create a better HomeKit smart home. I don't know how many times I've said this, but man, I cannot wait for Matter. It's exciting, but still a bit of a mystery. I can't wait to see how this transforms the smart home space and what this will mean for us Apple HomeKit users. In theory, at least, we should have even more products to choose from. It could make things a little more overwhelming, which is probably a good problem to have. If you haven't watched my original top 7 video from last year, then I'll link that up here so you can check that out. Let's go over my top 7 from last year, and then I'll tell you if I still agree with myself or if I have some new recommendations. Up first, Eve Aqua, and yes, I still agree with this recommendation. I've forgotten to turn my sprinkler off too many times. Eve Aqua has an auto shut-off duration, which is a lifesaver. You can control it from the device itself or within HomeKit. Ask Siri to start watering, or even better, create a schedule so you never have to think about it. There's even a shortcut that allows you to skip watering for today, or for today and tomorrow. Especially if you have a garden, Eve Aqua is amazing and will make your life so much easier. Ecobee is another one that's hard not to love. It's so smart, I sometimes even forget about it. You can easily create a schedule, and since it detects occupancy, it knows when to run your schedule and when to reduce the heat or AC. I especially love the little room sensors. These ensure my sleep temperature is based on my bedroom and not elsewhere in the house, like the hallway of my main floor where my Ecobee is installed. This is an interesting one, and one that I'm sure will get some debate, but I love my Logitech Circleview doorbell. It's a video doorbell that works with HomeKit Secure Video. It's nice being able to use the doorbell chimes on my HomePods. Since I have HomePods in almost every room of my home, I never miss when someone's at the door. It's also great when I'm away and I can see and talk to visitors using two-way audio. Now, the issue that some have experienced with this doorbell is overheating. If your door is facing direct sunlight, then this may be a product you need to avoid. Since I'm not facing direct sunlight and I have a covered porch, this has not been an issue for me. It's also held up and even stayed connected during the cold Canadian winter. It's rated for as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius, though I was able to use it even beyond that. Okay, the HomePod Mini, a must for your Apple home in my opinion. It's a great speaker, a personal assistant, and it's a home hub, which includes a Thread border router so you can enjoy the growing number of Thread products out there. It's a great way to set scenes and control your different HomeKit devices. One of my favorite features is intercom, so we can send messages to each other whether home or away. Well, sometimes I like it.
Hey, intercom. Mom, Dad, I can't sleep. Mom, Dad, I can't sleep. My mosquito bites are super itchy.
There are also some strong rumors that a HomePod 2 could be released later this year or next year that resembles the original OG HomePod. This is pretty amazing news. I have a pair of originals and I would love the opportunity to add some more. It's gotta have Thread this time, right? And the U1 chip, maybe a touchscreen on top, and some cool colors would be nice as well. Apple's made a lot of headway in the smart speaker market with the HomePod Mini, but HomePod 2 is going to have to be far less expensive than the original $450 price tag of the OG in order to sell. On to Lutron Caseta. I recommend this brand to people over and over again. Lutron Caseta has on and off switches and dimmers and versions that work with and without a neutral wire. There's also an optional Pico remote that you can place on a desk or you can mount it to the wall for 3 or 4-way switches. Lutron Caseta also has a version which includes a favorite button, which I find extremely useful. We have this in our bathroom. I press the middle button to get dim light. Lutron uses a bridge and it connects through their own Clear Connect technology. I understand people don't like having extra hubs, but this is one of those times where I say it's well worth it for the speed and dependability of Caseta. The downside here is the price. I think it's worth it if you have the means, but just remember, you don't need to replace all your switches at once. I equipped my home over several years buying new switches when they were on sale and using gift cards. However, another light switch that has really impressed me is Maris. It's much more affordable, you don't need a hub, and it's been really reliable. Since it uses Wi-Fi, I personally would avoid cluttering your entire home with all Wi-Fi switches. For a few switches here and there though, it's a great choice, and you can also add an optional remote control that's similar to the Pico remote for Lutron Caseta. Eve is expected to be releasing a new light switch later this year that works on Thread. This is really exciting, though I hear it's going to be on and off only, so you're not going to have dimming control, which is a little unfortunate. Next is the Nanoleaf Essentials light bulb, and this is one that people seem to love or hate. It's a tough one for me. If I'm being honest, I have to say Philips Hue is the most reliable light that I've ever used, but it's also expensive. People like to hate on Philips Hue because of their price, and I get that, but they work really, really well. They're bright and they produce better colors and are extremely reliable even when compared to Nanoleaf Essentials, which uses Thread. My Nanoleaf lights work reliably most of the time, but occasionally they will be unresponsive, or more likely just a little slow to respond. They are bright, especially their whites, and I think their colors are pretty good, better than many others give them credit for, though still no match for Philips Hue. I do still recommend Nanoleaf Essentials as a solid option. They're good quality lights at what feels like an amazing price, and unlike Hue, they don't require a hub. The last one on my original list of top 7 was Eve Door and Window. This is another product that uses Thread. It's hard to get overly excited about door and window sensors, and this is an expensive one, but I'm personally willing to invest in what works. Runner up here is a car's door and window sensor, which I would say hasn't been as reliable as Eve in my experience, but it's close. So those are my thoughts on my recommended list, but what about the ones I said to avoid? I said in my original video, and I feel I need to say this again, I really don't like to be negative and I try to find the good in a product, but sometimes I can't, and I also feel I owe it to my audience to share my actual experience. It is of course just one opinion, and I often have people share their opposing views, which I welcome as long as it's respectful. It is the whole point of creating this awesome Apple home community. So first on my avoid list was the Wemo Smart Plug. This is one that has very polarizing opinions. Some people say they love Wemo and it's been great, and hey, awesome. But I would say that the majority agreed with my opinion, which has not changed. I was optimistic earlier this year when Wemo released a new Thread-enabled smart plug, Thread instead of Wi-Fi, and it connected directly into HomeKit, not the Wemo app. Unfortunately, this little plug has not been any better. Instead, my recommendation for smart plugs is Eve Energy. It includes energy monitoring, and it can strengthen and expand your Thread network. But most importantly, it just performs. This is another Eve product well worth the money. The Hue Smart Plug is another solid option, and the best budget-friendly option that I would recommend is Maris. It uses Wi-Fi, but it's far more reliable than Wemo, and it's inexpensive. Next was the Wemo light switch. Also, not good. I bought the Wemo Stage when Thread was added. Like the smart plug, I thought it would change my opinion on Wemo products, but this is still disappointing. It goes through batteries like there's no tomorrow, and it can't seem to stay connected. It never works when you need it to. I tried contacting Wemo and they just say to reset the device, change the batteries, and that's great advice for maybe 24 hours until it stops working again. The last one on my avoid list is one where I've changed my mind. I was having issues with my Weister Premis locks, and when it comes to locks, they have to be reliable. At one point last year I thought, hey, I haven't had any issues with Weister Premis in months. What's changed? Well, I tracked this down to when I added a HomePod Mini into my front entrance. This sort of makes sense since Weister Premis uses Bluetooth. Having a HomePod Mini so close by made a big difference. I won't put this on my top 7 since it's a bit outdated now, especially with Apple keys coming. I'm hoping to try out the Schlage Encode Plus once it finally comes to Canada. Okay, so that's my updated thoughts from last year. So now, the nearly impossible task of coming up with a new list. Has anything changed? These are the devices for my 2022 top 7 list that have made the cut. And here are the ones I would add to my list, starting with Eve Motionblinds. These are high quality and reliable Thread-enabled window shades with many customizations available. Smart shades may not be the first thing you add to your smart home, but once you do, wow, you will be amazed. I'll link my video in the description so you can learn more. These are the most expensive item on the list, but I promise you, totally worth it and more affordable than some other options out there. In the future, I hope Eve Motionblinds expands beyond offering roller shades, so if you're looking for wood or honeycomb blinds, you'll have to look for alternative options or wait a little longer. I also have to mention that I can't wait for a smart option to open and close my shutters. I can't have a list without mentioning lighting, so I'm going with Philips Hue. I can see the comments coming already, but in my opinion, they are just so reliable, and Philips Hue is such a vast ecosystem, they're hard to ignore. I love that I can add a Lutron Aurora to not only control the lights from the switch, but also to ensure that the switch isn't turned off accidentally. So after writing out what I wanted to say and recording my A-roll, I'm editing my video and I think I didn't include my Hunter fan, one of my favorite devices. Seriously guys, this is amazing for a couple of reasons. First, it's a high quality fan, it's really quiet and it moves a lot of air. Secondly, I love that I can include this into my HomeKit scenes and automations. During my goodnight scene, I have my fan turn on to start moving the air before bedtime. Then sometimes we want to watch a show, so I'll use my Flic button to dim the lights and turn the fan off so there isn't air just blowing in our eyes. I can then use the Flic button again when it's time to go to sleep, and that'll turn the fan back on low and of course all of the lights off. Then I have another automation at 9 AM that turns the fan off since nobody's going to be in this room. It's great during these hot summer months because I can use the fan to help stay cool at night and reduce the strain on my air conditioner. So before realizing that I forgot my Hunter fan, what was my top 7? Well, I had chose Eve Energy. It's an excellent smart plug and I get it. Smart plugs are not exciting, but Eve Energy just works. It's exactly what the Wemo Thread smart plug should be, but isn't. Because it's Thread, it also helps extend the range of your other Thread devices. Especially if you have hard to reach or inconvenient locations, then having a reliable smart plug is so important. Okay, so what about those devices to avoid? I already mentioned that Weister Premis is no longer on my list. The Vocolinc Lightstrip though, yes, that is still on my avoid list. I don't dislike Vocolinc as a brand. Their Flower Bud Essential Oil Diffuser works well, but I can't say the same for their light strip. The colors are way off and it's just simply unreliable. There's so many better light strip options that you can buy at a comparable price, like the Maris Lightstrip Pro that has accurate colors, good whites, and it's been reliable. Another fun one to try is the Onvis Chameleon light strip. I feel like this one doesn't get the credit it deserves. It's well priced and it's pretty cool since it's addressable, meaning you can have multiple colors with some cool built-in effects. Okay, so no surprise here, but I would avoid Wemo products. To be clear, I am a Belkin fan and I own several of their products. But when it comes to Wemo, no thank you. Have any of you tried their new doorbell? Any luck with that? Please share any feedback you have either way on Wemo products so others can make an informed decision. As someone who reviews products, I'm truly fortunate to have products sent to me to test out, and I'm always upfront about providing fair and honest feedback, both to the companies that send me the products and to you, my audience. Wemo didn't send me their products. I purchased these on my own because I was really looking forward to test out these new Thread devices, and I wasn't impressed. I wish I had better news to share. I'm willing to give them a try again. It's important that you hear the good and the bad. And who knows, maybe firmware updates or new hardware will improve things in the future, which would be amazing. The Wemo Stage could actually be a lot of fun and really useful in my smart home, so I can only hope it starts working the way it should. If improvements are made, I totally reconsider. Another device I can't recommend is the Fibaro motion sensor. I have to admit that it looks super cool, but unfortunately, it just doesn't perform well. It has a light sensor which I thought would be really nice, but it's slow and often just doesn't work at all. Bluetooth devices can be slower and less stable than many other communication technologies. Fibaro does offer a Z-Wave version of the same motion sensor, so if you have a compatible hub, then this could be a better option. I would love to see Fibaro offer a Thread version in the future. A few alternatives to consider are Philips Hue or the Aqara P1 motion sensor. Both work extremely well, though my top choice goes to Hue since it also has a light sensor that's exposed to HomeKit. I still use Eve Motion, which is based on Bluetooth and it's definitely a little bit larger, but it works much better than Fibaro's Bluetooth motion sensor, and with Eve it can be used indoors or outdoors. Also, something to be excited about is a new motion sensor that may be available later this year from Eve, which is built on Thread and reportedly will even have a light sensor. That wraps up my list of products to avoid. Most HomeKit products that I've tried have worked relatively well for me. I know that cost is a big driver for people. Keep in mind that this is not the only factor. Quality and functionality might require you to consider a slightly more expensive product. I try to avoid accessories that rely on Bluetooth. You can get by, but there are much better options out there, specifically Thread. The one exception I have to throw out there are Flic Buttons. These are Bluetooth, but man, they are awesome. They didn't crack my top 7 list this time, but these small little buttons are powerful even with using Bluetooth. Also, be mindful of adding too many Wi-Fi devices that could congest your network. There's nothing wrong with having Wi-Fi devices, I just wouldn't base my entire smart home on this. Instead, look for Thread or bridge technologies like Lutron, Hue, or Aqara. This is my experience and yours might be completely different. I'm always happy to hear about your opinions in the comments. Even if you're a Google or Alexa fan, let me know some top products that I should consider reviewing once Matter rolls out. Smart home products are an investment, so do your research to find the products that you think will work the best for you, and I hope this video has helped with that. Check out the channels tab for some more great smart home creators who can help round out your knowledge and share their experiences. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our channels to show us your support and help us get the most out of our smart homes. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.